So I am Sriram Gopalan. I have around 11 years of industrial experience in test automation, and I've been a LabVIEW developer since 2010. And I'm very excited to present you on LabVIEW. So this is a very interesting and very small library. It's a very simplest one, and the motto is how we can interact with the terminal in a colorful way. So that is what the LVCHALK is all about. So this is the agenda. So basically I will tell you what is LVCHALK is and currently what are the features which is right now there, and a small demo of the LVCHALK and how it is implemented and the final conclusions. Okay. So what is LVCHALK? So it is a styling and coloring library where you can add colors to the text which has been rendered on the command line. So when we normally use LabVIEW, most of our applications we tend to use or build with graphical user interface. So most of the application, majority of them, they tend to have some GUI component in it. But let's say when you're working with other languages like text-based, so normally we interact a lot with terminals. So we tend to provide input to the terminals, and same way we tend to see the response in the terminals. So in some cases, there are scenarios where we may not need the GUI, which is controls and indicators in our applications, and still we want to run this application through LabVIEW, right? So that's where the terminal styling plays a major role. So what LVCHALK does is, so LabVIEW already has the feature to send the text to the terminals, but it just adds the coloring and styling on just top of it. And the major advantage of this is that it improves the readability by providing the colors, and it can easily differentiate different types of warnings or error messages actually. So on the left you have is the plain console output, which you see here. And on the right side, there's the same text here, but it's rendered with different colors. So this colors easily differentiates the readability thing. So that's the major advantage of having the coloring. So when we look at the text-based languages like Python or Node, they have their own terminal coloring, like chalk you have in Node and PyChalk you have in Python. So in LabVIEW, I found that we already have the libraries to send response to the terminal, but we didn't have the coloring library. So that's why I just explored the concept of the coloring and we implemented this chalk. It's a very simple one, and I'm just going to show you everything of it. So currently, the feature which is supported in LVCHALK is you have the foreground color, the background color, and the underline. So there are many styles which are there apart from this. So I just experimented with these three, and it has been working successfully for me. And like I said, this is just a coloring thing, and but it has to be used across, with either the standard out library or the GCLA libraries, because these are the two libraries which already they have written to interact with the terminal. So you can use both, and in the demonstration I'm just going to show with the how I have implemented with the standard out library, but I also have the coding snippet for GCLI. Okay, and the application, it must be launched through command line or batch, so which is makes right, because most of the terminal kind of applications we tend to develop with command line. So that's where the major need of coloring and terminal styling comes into the place. Okay, so this is how the look is. So you have an exe, and when you launch this exe through the terminal, and you can see in the console, so these are the logs which has been printed from LabVIEW, and you can see the coloring for each of these things, right? Okay, so we'll just see the demo. So I have two demos. So one is the plain one. So let me launch command. So I hope it's fine so far. Let me. Okay. So when I run this now, uh, so this is actually calling that exe, and you can see the text being printed in the command line. So these are very plain text, which is been sent from LabVIEW to this terminal. So I will talk about this error which is coming, but I would say that the application has executed successfully, and this error comes only on the exit actually. Okay, so this is the plain application. Okay, and the same application when I implement with the chalk, right? So, so this is how it will look. So for each and every line, you can see the different ways in which you can style the coloring. So that's the advantage of adding the coloring to the LVCHALK. So I hope that you understood that demo, but now I will explain what is the concept behind this. Okay, so the implementation is basically the ANI ANSI escape sequence. So these are the standard codes. They are meant to color the text or font on terminals actually, and they're actually completely an open source standard, and they work on any kind of OS, and which doesn't need any any third party libraries actually. So usually the all the ANSI escape they have this kind of uh, notation where it starts with 1B and or 33. So it's literally called as escape actually, the /x. So if you look at the example, the application starter, you can find, so this is the text, and before that you have an ANSI escape sequence, and on the end you have an ANSI escape sequence. And these are the list of a lot of codes you have, and there are a lot of the sequence which is available. So some of them works, some of them not. I haven't experimented much, but it's a very open source and large list of libraries which works for any kind of language. Okay, so what I've done is just a small VI. So where you have the foreground color, a background color, and an underline. So this is the text. So when you feed the text to this library, it just gives us the ANSI standard output, right? So this is the text when you run on the terminal. So when you run this, only the hello world pass on to that, it will render the default color. But when you pass on with this ANSI escape sequence, it tends to render the color on the terminal. So that's the whole idea. So this will be the input, and this standard text will be the output. So this I said, this I implement with the standard old library developed by Mike. So this is a very old library which was there at that time. So you have a sequence which is a setup, and this is the core part where uh, you get the ANSI standard text. Actually, I'm building it, and this is the where I'm passing on to the terminal. So once it is sent to the terminal, it's been rendered on the terminal. So this is the Chalk library implementation in that. And of late, when I showed the demo, you would have seen that error. So the error occurs because the older one is based on some implementation with DLL, which I'm not able to figure out despite trying a lot of alternate ways. But the execution happens in only on the close. It tends to generate an error. But with this GCLI, which is another tool which supports command line interface from LabVIEW, and you can easily write any data to the command line. So I just integrated this chalk with this GLI. So it does same what I showed with standard out one, but it doesn't throw any error actually. So this I would say it's recommended to use GCLI for this case. It's standard library which is available in VIPM, and you can definitely use this chalk library along with that. And so I would say, if I had to conclude, that this is a easy to add style and personality to the terminal, and it's a very simple function. So the function is, if I show you the simple code, so this is what the chalk does. I mean, you can add on many features based on what works with respect to LabVIEW. But if you look at here, so you have the foreground, you have the background, and the underline. So these things, they tend to add the characters. They replace the ANSA sequence, and they build as a text. So let's say hello, and when you run, so this is the text when you uh, run through any of the terminal. So even if you have the let's say plain bat, and so if I run the plain, okay, so let's see the chalk bat. Yeah, so let's say, yeah, okay, so this is how the text, the text which is generated from the chalk, when I use it on the bat, so it still renders the color. But the same thing which when we integrate it with standard out or GCLI, it still works the same way actually. So that's the whole idea behind this LVCHALK. So I think that concludes this simple library of LVCHALK, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to present in GLA, by the way. So, any questions? Yeah, I mean, I would say that underline bold. I think underline is there for bold. It is there in ANSI, but I would say that as of now it doesn't work with LabVIEW. So it's again, we have to check whether it is specific to programming or not. But the ANSI is the underlying library behind all the other libraries like PyChalk or even the chalk library which is in Node. This is right now not an open source, but we can try to add it to the GCLI part actually. Maybe we could definitely we can think of adding to the existing tooling. Yeah. Thank you. See you.